Day 12 of the Faculty Day Faculty Development Program. And we have been seeing so many domains in the last 10, 11 days. And today we are moving to two domains. One is Niyuddha Kala, that is martial arts, in the first session, first half. And in the second session, we have two army officers, great army officers who will be taking us through military sciences. So in Niyuddha Kala, martial arts, we will go through sources, texts, schools and thinkers all together. We have combined the two topics that we are doing it separately in many of the domains. Here we have combined it, and we have with us Dr.D.K.Hari and Dr.D.K.HemaHari from BharathGyan. I have known them for more than 10 years. They were in the Art of Living ashram. We were all staying in the Art of Living ashram, and they have done lovely work, and they are currently based out of Chennai. A little introduction about them. Dr. D.K.Hari and Dr. D.K.HemaHari, husband-wife duo, are founders of BharathGyan, a forerunner in Indian civilizational study to compile and present knowledge about the Indian civilization and its global connects over millennia through an Indic narrative. They have 20 years of professional experience in management and IT. See their background, it's management and IT, and how they have started BharathGyan and done so much of work through BharathGyan. They started BharathGyan research around the year 2000, and they have so far collated over 500 hours of multimedia content in over 108 different subjects and published 100 books as part of Autobiography of India collection, besides 5 documentary films, 500 plus short films, 500 plus blog articles. Isn't that a big achievement, right? It's such a vast achievement. This tells us the quality of their minds and the quality of their seeking. They are visiting faculty for Indian knowledge systems in universities in India and overseas, as well as for FDPs. They have been a part of our FDP since 2020 when we started this series, and I'm sure you will really, really enjoy their session. Thank you, Dr. Hari, Dr. HemaHari, for joining us on Sources, Texts, Schools and Thinkers in Martial Arts, that is Niyuddha Kala. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Richa Chopra, for introducing us to this wonderful group and to keep calling us year on year. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank all our senior faculty, Professor Kapil Kapoor, for his blessings that's always been with us in our work in the field of IKS. Okay. So we get on to the subject of the day, that is martial arts. In that word itself, there are two common. One is martial, which is Yuddha, and there's arts to it, Kala. So Yuddha itself
Niyuddha it becomes, therefore. So it's beautiful because you're going to be having the session in the afternoon by people from military itself, and you will be exposed to what really goes on in a battle. Now, when we talk about Niyuddha Kala, here it is, yes, it is an aspect of combat, but here we are focusing on close combat. So on foot, because in battle you could be on tanks or horses and so on, but in Niyuddha Kala you're focusing more on close combat where the people are on foot close to each other and engaging each other in a duel. And when you take it to a Kala, so the civilization, the beauty lies in how even something which is to be fought, we have made an art out of it. So there is a Kala aspect also to it. And when you talk about Kala, I'll just share my screen here. So when you talk about it from a Kala point of view, and especially something which is so such a physical activity, It takes you all the way. The spectrum ranges from your own basic fitness to keep your body fit to your personal satisfaction, like when you overcome your own records or when you overcome your opponent and you feel that satisfaction, yes, I have the strength in me, to a spiritual experience itself. Now, why do we call this a spiritual experience? This is where the aspect of Niyuddha in Bharat comes into play. Because if you want your body to excel, and that has been a beauty that the civilization has understood, that if you want your body to excel, you have to align all the layers of your being, right from your mind and everything. You have to focus and bring it into alignment to be able to perform. And when you bring it to that kind of alignment, because spiritual experience is all about aligning. So in yoga, you align as per the word yoga, yug, jug. So this alignment, join. So in martial arts, people experience that kind of a spiritual experience as well, because everything is so aligned. You have to be totally focused and totally internalized with that aspect. So this entire range of using an act such as combat also to take you all the way from a routine fitness activity to enjoying a spiritual experience, this is a beauty which you get only when it's a kala. Because in a kala, you're actually doing a routine act. You may be stitching many stitches or doing strokes. That is a physical routine activity. But inner, your mind is focused on the theme, on the idea, and you're trying to bring out certain expressions.
For example, Mahatma Gandhi used to say, spinning the charka itself was a meditation for him, even though it's part of the weaving kala. Look at it. So that is just one example we thought I'll bring out here. Please go ahead.
So therefore, we have evolved, while we have taken it as a combat, we have also evolved it into an art, and it is part of our 64 arts as well.
See, the aspect is, there are, in India, through the ages, if you see, among the kala, we have spoken about 64 different kala. And the key point is, it has not been the same 64 across centuries. What the 64 is always varied and changed. Sometimes it's gone up to 72 and all. But the key point is that this land recognized a variety of kalas and was a very skill-based land. And all these skills were trained and honed and practiced and exhibited for the benefit of the civilization repeatedly by different people. That was the underlying factor, because when Kalidasa speaks about 64 kala, or somebody else speaks about 64 kala, each one is not the same list of 64. Each one is different. Sometimes partially, sometimes substantially different. The point is that there's such a large range, and we also have to identify for our times the range of skills that we have. It could be 64, it could be much more too.
So and why did we hone this particular skill of Niyuddha? You have Yuddha, why Niyuddha as well? Because there are different situations which warrant different kinds of tackling. And in Niyuddha, they have focused both on taking care of fighting the threats to one's own physical body. So how do you keep it fit? And that you can do by exercising, and an exercise with a purpose. And one of the purposes there was also to keep you fit to thwart threats to the society and civilization itself. So always keep the people in a fit condition so that when there are threats to the society, they can stand, they can come up, while they by and large will be a peaceful society. When there are threats, you should be able to stand up and defend.
For you can be a peaceful society only if you exhibit strength. So you must have the innate strength both in the physical body, the mental makeup, and the grouping that you are, and show the strength to maintain a sense of balance and peace, which is what in war is called the level of no deterrence or deterrence strength. That's important. This is not a new war strategy that we have in the last few decades or the last century or two. This was being practiced in the land for millennia.
And the constant reminders actually today, if you see, to this aspect where the civilization had emphasized on fit body and a able society, you can see it in the reminders today are akhadas, the traditional places where such training is done. North, I think many people they're familiar with the word akhadas and all. But if there are people from the south, it is the word akhada. For Kerala, it is like a kalari. So a place where training is done. And today we still are fortunate that we have a few of these traditional training centers still left. Now, tracing back the history, therefore, if you see, since when have we been practicing this Niyuddha Kala? It goes back way, way back. All the way. Actually, we have put this up as an article. I'll show you where it is. Just a moment, I'll pull it up.
She'll just show you it's in our website. All of you can go anytime at your convenience later in BharathGyan. We put the same, the substance of what we're speaking the next hour and a half. It's there in our website. Just go to the BharathGyan.com website.
We're showing you how to get there itself so that you can do it next time as well. So go to our website. Here you will find the blog. So you search on Niyuddha.
So you get to Niyuddha Kala there, the full article that explains the whole process. And if you look at it, one of the earliest practitioners of this Niyuddha Kala So one of the earliest practitioners of this Niyuddha Kala, we can trace it all the way back to Parshurama. You can trace it all the way back to Parshurama. See, Parshurama, what is the legend of Parshurama? He got the Malabar and the Konkan region. He retrieved that region, the Malabar and the Konkan region, isn't it? For all of us. So that's why that area is called Parashurama Kshetra. Even though when we do Sankalpa, for different places of the land, we have different Kshetra. For the Malabar and Konkan region, we call them Parashurama Kshetra. Of course, now the tourism department has called it God's own country. They adapted it well to be appreciated. But fundamentally, that's a Kshetra. What did he do after he created the Parashurama Kshetra? See, obviously, Parashurama has got a Kshatriya Bhava. He created 108 Kalari centers, means the centers for where you have these practices of martial arts. He created them in Kerala, which is present-day Kerala. So, and many of them actually even now exist from those hoary times. Now, if you see the times for Rama is about 7,100 years ago. So it means Parshurama makes his last appearance in Rama's time and then he is off after that. So that means this goes back even before that. So we have a hoary tradition, a practice in this land of this martial arts going back 7,100 years plus. I don't think any other civilization is able to trace its antiquity of different art forms. Let's leave that for the moment. Let's focus on our subject of martial arts and see very clearly a continuity of tradition from there on. Now the point is, where all did Parshurama go around? Obviously he went to Janakpuri, there, it's all there, the story of Ramayana. He went all over different parts of the land, and wherever he went, he set up these Akhada centers. That's been one thing that he has done. And not only has he traveled in this main part of Bharat, he's gone all the way up to northeast. In the almost easternmost district of Arunachal Pradesh, you have a nice Kund, Sarovar. It's called Parshuram Kund. And it was in this Parshuram Kund that Parshuram did tapas during Shankranti in his times. Which is why even now, every year for Shankranti, lot of people, yatris, go all the way up to Parshuram Kund, even though it's very cold then. In Arunachal Pradesh, northeast part of India, it's very cold in Shankranti times, but still people go there to do dhyana at Parshuram Kund. So that speaks about what? The range of the land from southwest border of Bharat, Varsha, where he retrieved the land for us and called it Parshuram Kshetra, to Parshuram Kund in northeast Arunachal Pradesh. He has traversed the land all over, setting up different kalari or akhadas, as is now called in different languages. That is how he created a base for it. So if you have this vibrant martial arts in this land, I think one of the early proponents whom we must all offer our obeisance to is Lord Parshurama.
So from Parshurama, if you come down next, you will find that the next epoch, a milestone epoch, has been the Mahabharata.
You're sharing image with
Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing. I am sharing.
You're not sharing. Once you just share screen for you, please. You can see parallel as you talk, you can share screen. 1 second. I think we need screen sharing facility, please.
No, we are there. I mean, we are there. Okay, we got minimized.
Yeah. Thank you.
So from Ramayana period and pre-Ramayana, the next epoch, if you see, is the Mahabharata times. And we have so many anecdotes in the Mahabharata about duels that have been fought. And one of the earliest, even though it is not directly in Mahabharata, but is of the same contemporaneous period, but finds mention in Bhagavatam and all of that, is the engagement of Krishna and Balarama in duel with Kamsa and his warriors. So Chanura and Mushtika, how Krishna and Balarama fought when they were young with these people, and that was also a combat which is recorded. And mind you, the reason we can use this is because these are our documents of history. They form part of our Itihasa, the Mahabharata period. We have called them Itihasa. I'm sure you would have had sessions earlier which emphasize this aspect of the knowledge base of the Indian knowledge system, which are its traditional historical texts, which have been called Itihasa, meaning Itihasa, Asa. It thus happened. So, which means that there were people, Krishna and Balarama, who engaged in such Niyuddha Kala. And Mahabharata, we can trace it, the timing of the Mahabharata period, we can trace it to at least 5,100 years ago. And therefore, from then on, it has been coming. And we have not only Krishna and Balarama, but we have even amongst the Pandava and Kaurava, we have Bhima and we have Duryodhana, who are all extolled for their immense strength. See, Niyuddha Kala needs strength. And while some of them are very subtle and need a light body, some of them really need strong, well-built people as well. And strength is therefore core. And it is very, very interesting that if you go to many of the akhadas, one of the divinities, one of the main popular divinities in all of the akhadas will not be your warrior god Skanda, that is, or Kartikeya, or the god who is very huge like Ganesha with his elephant head, but it will be Hanuman. And this is the beauty in Indian knowledge system. We may talk about Niyuddha, we may talk about Kala, we may talk about Itihasa. They all blend together because each one fits in with the other and reinforces the other. And where do you find the reinforcement for using Hanuman as a divinity? Because Hanuman, if you see, yes, you have all the Vanara and Hanuman who have engaged in a lot of their kind of fights. We call them just as fights or Vanara fights when they fought for Rama and Lanka. But why particularly Hanuman, and how do you see the association? You see that very beautifully in the shloka for Hanuman, where you extol the traits of Hanuman, and then you say Buddhir Balam Yasho Dhairyam Nirbhayatvam Arogatam Ajatyam Vatpatutvam Cha Hanumat Smaranat Bhavet. So Balam, Dhairyam, Nirbhayam. So all these qualities, this is separate. Even today, so many of us, when we pray to Hanuman, we go to the temple, we utter this shloka, we say this shloka, we pray to him with this shloka, and all these words come in, and all of us even today encourage our children to say the shloka for getting all these qualities, which are definitely very essential for a martial art person. And Hanuman and his control over mind and the speed of mind is Hanuman embodies that particular aspect as well. And Niyuddha Kala, martial arts, is everything to do with controlling the mind and the body together and anchoring them together to give you that strength to make the impact.
Now, having said about Hanuman, let's look at the kings of Hanuman, that is Vali and Sugriva. They were also very skilled in this art of physical combat, which is what they had, a personal physical combat, which all of us have heard about, the Vali Sugriva Yuddha. So it has been a regular training across millennia, not centuries, across millennia. But look at the other part of it. What do we call, if you go to Olympics or international sport, wrestling today is called by the Greco-Roman style. The style of wrestling itself they call that, but they don't call it anymore Indian style of wrestling. Whereas wrestling, Malyuddha is something that we have offered the world before those civilizations became civilized in the first place. This is 3, 4, 5 millennia before the Greco-Roman civilization formed itself. We have been having rules and methods and trainings and practices for wrestling, akhadas and kalari and all that. But we don't have that name in international sport, calling it Indian style of wrestling, whereas you call it Greco-Roman style of wrestling. That is something through these efforts we need to change. No use saying what happened 40, 50 years back, but it's sufficient time that we all look at the idea and then change and say, okay, we have an distinct Indian style and we have the tradition for it and we have the data to back it. That's what is important.
Yeah. So, from the Mahabharata period, we then come to a period where we find all this martial art traveling actually from India. So, Hari was just mentioning about how we need to bring this particular aspect of Indian style of wrestling. And these Indian martial arts, they actually have traveled the world over, especially to Southeast. And one of the main personages who was responsible for this is Bodhidharma. And this Bodhidharma, he was a Pallava prince. So, Bodhidharma, so he was a Pallava prince and he lived during this 5th century CE. So Pallava fundamentally meaning this part of South India. And from here, so he lived in Kanchipuram and he was trained in Kalari by gurus from Kerala. And from here, he has traveled, made his journey all the way to. So he was also a Buddhist scholar, and he wanted to take Buddhism. His main objective, his purpose was to take Buddhism and spread it to Southeast Asia, China. And that is why his aim was to travel to China. And this was the route he took. He went along Malacca Strait, went to Vietnam. And
he spent a few months in Vietnam teaching martial arts there, and he was known as Bodhe That Ma. Look at the name he gets. He had a different name in India because he was a Pallava royal prince, so he was a Varma in India. And then from there he went. He took, so this name was mentioned different ways. Whereas in China he is known as Damo, and in Korea, even though he did not go to Korea, his skills went to Korea, his teachings went to Korea. They had become Dalma. Then in Japan, it became Daruma. So while he settled down in Shaolin, his skills from there on went westwards and came all the way up to Tibet as Dharmottara. Look at the word. So it's all related to Dharma. See, while from Kanchipuram up north, he did not go into Tibet. Of course, he went up to Nalanda and studied all that, but his fame came all the way from Shaolin. So that's how it came through. And incidentally, we have written a book on this. It's available in our site for all of you for free reading.
so if you go to our mini book section again, you will find this on Bodhi Dharma. So this book talks about how he took martial arts, who was he, and his background, and how he took this entire. So, like we said in the earlier part about Dhyanam. So from Dhyanam, it became Dhyan, and then it became Chan.
Look at that. In India, some part it's called Dhyanam, some part is called Dhyan. When Bodhidharma took it to China, what did they call it? They called it Chan in Chinese language. And from China, when this went to Japan, so it went there and
Zen.
It became Zen. It became Zen Buddhism. So today when we speak about Zen Buddhism, realize that it came from this particular idea.
So he goes to Shaolin and there he emphasizes. So while he has gone there to spread Buddhism, teach Buddhism, he also emphasizes that it is not enough to have just spiritual, meditative form of lifestyle, but you should also have physical activity to build your fitness as well and keep yourself as a fit society. Because China, at the time, there were a lot of group, different clans as well, trying to engaging in taking over each other's villages and so on. So he was teaching people how to be a fit and secure group. So towards this purpose, he taught them the martial arts that he was an exponent in, and that is how he set up Shaolin. So he was given the land to set up the Shaolin monastery, and prior to that, he proved his mettle by he himself sitting and meditating, and there is a cave which is called the Dharma cave, Bodhi Dharma cave. So in this we have detailed, and you can read this later at your leisure. So that's how they normally show him. They show him sitting there in meditation. So he proved he had both the spiritual, the dhyana skill, and the skill of techniques of martial arts. So how he convinces the emperor, and that's how he gets it And there is a monument for him at the place
There's a
today.
pagoda for him. Specifically now, for this particular, which is looked at as the high place for martial arts. While we don't have a similar pagoda in India, China has it. So they have taken it up. So what is a skill of Bharat? China has gone and owned it today. Because we need to own back. First, there are 3 levels to it. One, we need to know about it. Then we need to own it. Because only if we know something can we own it. Only if we own it can we flaunt it. We can speak about it. So there are 3. Unfortunately, we have stumbled a lot, not a bit, but we have to get back to know of it through all these IKS sessions like this, then own it. Then only you can say that yes, we have it. If you don't say, they will give others names to it.
And there is a very interesting story as to how this style of Namaste, which is popular in Bharat, goes and becomes the style of a single-handed greeting in Shaolin. That is the way they greet people in Shaolin and in martial arts in China, with a single hand, with just one-handed Namaste. And there is a very interesting story behind how one of his students actually brought this out. It's a long story. So from here, we actually go on to the next, just one. So if you see Bodhidharma, the place from which he embarked on his journey to China was Mahabalipuram, which is there in present-day Tamil Nadu, very close to Chennai. It is a coastal town. And the name for Mahabalipuram in Tamil is Maamallapuram. And Maamallapuram, again, this comes from one of the Pallava kings, who was a great exponent in martial arts, and he was, so therefore Malla, he was a Mahamalla.
So, Niyuddha, when you say Niyuddha, the same Mal, you prefix it with a Ma meaning great, Maha, great. So he was a Mamallan. So the king had a prefix, a royal name called Mamallan, and the city that he built, the port city built, came to be called as Maamallapuram. So that was the importance that was given to.
So Mahabalipuram is the place from where Bodhidharma. So this is the place today. You have an ancient shore temple which stands there as a port city, because it was also a very, very important center then. There were parallel trade ports just along close by, and there are a few temples today. It's a very popular visiting site. And the most interesting thing is, China recognizes that this art has come from India. And that is why when the Chinese Premier Xi Jinping came to India, he chose Mahabalipuram as the venue for his meeting with Prime Minister Modi.
Actually, we have made a short film on this. It's in a YouTube channel for you to watch later. See, when Xi Jinping, the president, came to India of China, he chose to come to Maamallapuram, because he felt that is where their roots are. So while we have to exhibit our roots, whereas they wanted to claim that root. That's the beauty of it between the two civilizations. Look at this clear sculptures of wrestling that we have here, different forms.
Was coming inside Kerala. So from here, actually, let's look at some more of the various art forms. So from there on, things have propagated, and today, if you really look at it, we have various forms of styles which are particular to various regions of India. So if you look at the Northwest, we have, so we will look at different regions. So fundamentally, the point, actually at this point, what we want to emphasize to you is that there is a great history of martial arts, which goes back to Parshurama times, and we can see the trail all the way up to Bodhidharma, who takes it from India to other parts of the world as well. So we have come thus far. Now, what has happened within India? Where all do we see traces of it? And when we talk about martial arts, while we use the word Niyuddha, we use the generic term Malyuddha, there are various variations and varieties of this. See, when we talk about war, Yuddha, there are two words that come popularly which are used. One is the weaponry that is used in Yuddha, and that is Astra and Shastra. Right? We all are familiar with the words Astra and Shastra. Mahabharata is full of these words. What is the difference? Why do we have two words, Astra and Shastra? So, Astra are missiles. Those which are projectiles, they are sent out from one place and they go and cause a damage or inflict injury or effect in another place. So it's a projectile, it's projected, and it's projected with a clear focus and with a definite target to hit. Shastra are those which are held in hand and fought. So these are weapons which are handheld weapons. You could be like sword, spear, bows, arrows. These are called Shastra fundamentally. And even within Shastra, we have varieties that can be held, which can also be flung. So things, they are called Mukta. So those which can be freed from your hand and thrown away. And Amukta, those which cannot be thrown, which cannot be freed and have to be held only in the hand and fought accordingly. You can't just throw a sword. You have to hold it in your hand and fight. Whereas a spear, you can throw it, you can hold it in your hand and fight. You can also just throw it. And when you throw it, you can throw it in many ways. There are things which are called mantra mukta, which have been discharged by mantra, and you have yantra mukta, discharged by machines. So things like catapults or tanks, cannons, which can release the ball, and so there is a device which you use to release the particular weapon. So this is all there in Dhanurveda. One fundamental aspect which we should bear in mind when we are trying to study the traditional Indian martial arts. See, it's very easy to write about a science, about a philosophy, and you can write pages and pages and explain the idea. But when it comes to activity, how do you write and explain about an idea? You can write about the sciences, you can write about the classification, you can write about the category, you can write about the objectives, you can write about the purpose, you can write certain tips about various guidelines, but the actual technique, you cannot write it down. How much will you illustrate? It has to be learned in a Guru Sishya Parampara only. So a Kala is that which transcends time and comes down to you. It is a perfected art and comes down to you fundamentally by transcending generations as well, by transcending many brains, many mouths, many bodies. So different gurus, from each guru to Sishya becomes a guru, then to his Sishya. So unless you have a Guru Sishya Parampara which is established and is functioning and flourishing very well, you will not be able to sustain arts, any form of art. So any kala to be sustained needs that kind of a Guru Sishya Parampara, because it has to be demonstrated, it has to be physically taught. Even online, today we are fortunate to have certain mechanisms like the online systems that help us teach various art forms, but even then you still need that guru's presence, close enough presence to hone it to a finesse. And therefore we have various texts. So Dhanur Veda is one such text, but which talks about the overall aspects of these kind of warfare techniques. But the actual way, the skill has to be learned from a Guru Sishya Parampara, and that is where we have had many such. Every akhada, therefore, is one of that example of that Guru Sishya Parampara, which has been coming for so many years and has been therefore imparting this kind of training. A akhada or a kalari is that kind of a place where you have this, and based on all of this is where we have which one? So from there you have various varieties that have developed in India, and we shall see a few of them. So if you start from the northwest, so Punjab, you have the Gatka.
This is the famous art form that we have there in Punjab, which is there. Similarly, so Shastra Vidya is also is so important. The practitioners of Punjab have practiced it so well. Unfortunately, all these art forms were banned during the British colonial rule of India, is what we should recognize. All the Vidya, all these Vidyas are banned because they felt it will be inimical to their rule of the land, because these people are well trained Kshatriya Bhava, and then they'll be able to bring out aggression against British rule. So they banned all these things. We have some manuscripts too, and they took all, not only did they do that, they took away most of the manuscripts of training because they didn't want it to lie in India. Most of the manuscripts are now in the British Museum there. So that's how it happened. Now look at the other places. For example, you look at Maharashtra, which again a vibrant form of this kale, which is called as Mardani kale. Obviously popularized a lot during the times of Chhatrapati Shivaji and others. During the Maratha rule, it became quite popular, and all the Maratha men and women, they carried out this training as a self-defense. That's the beauty of it. And it encouraged them to create a large, physically strong body of people across the hinterland of the whole Maratha region. And we come to Odisha. We all hear about the Paika Akhada, the famous traditional akhadas we have practiced there, which was popular among the youth of the land. It was very popular among the youth of the land, which is what the Paika revolution itself took place. It was before the 1857 war. So you had these people happening all over. Now let's look at Tamil Nadu again. We have the famous idea of Silambam, fighting with the stick, with a strong bamboo stick. So Silambam has been a very popular art form and a Yuddha form very clearly. And you had, of course, protective gear, and then this became a Rahasya Kala because the British had banned it. Again, look at that. They banned it not only in Tamil Nadu, they banned it in Punjab, they banned it in Odisha, all over. So we lost a tradition because of a 200-year ban. And similarly, if you see in Tamil Nadu also, when you practice spirituality, you need to practice how to take in pain, how to handle self-defense. So this was one of the great areas of teaching, and starting from Dandal, a variety of other ways of training has taken place where you do different poses, like a frog, like a snake, all those things. So different poses, all these things have been well taught and trained in this land.
So coming to a place, Kerala, where there are still, you can see a lot of kalari. So the Kalari is the equivalent of an akhada, a gymnasium school, and Payat are the fights, the practices that go on. And this is where Bodhidharma learned his martial art, and he learns it from a Damu Gurukul. And all this interesting data we are today able to find in Shaolin Temple.
So, about Bodhidharma learning this from Damu Gurukul, it's a data we get from Shaolin Temple, not from Indian records. So that's it. So all the modern techniques, what you call Kung Fu, all this evolves from here. Kalari, Payuttu. And who set up these first Kalaris is what you have to see. 108 Kalaris were set up by Parshurama at least 6 millennia before Bodhidharma's time. And look at the continuity, it has come down through the ages in actual practice. A practice that has survived the onslaught of time for 6 millennia is something that must be venerated by us. Really.
And in stages of Kalari again, so when they teach you martial arts, so this aspect of this Guru Sishya, the Sishya Parampara, Guru Sishya Parampara, what they teach you are things like exercises to control the body. So May Payattu. Payattu is the exercise, May is the body. So what are the exercises that help you control the body? Then Chartam. Chartam means to jump. So Chartangal, how do you do the jumps? And footwork, Chavittas, the foot movements, how you should keep your foot so that you can balance your body well. And these are tips that only a guru can teach you, that just keep it slightly tilted this way, that way, then you get this balance. So all of these only a guru can teach you physically when you are close to him.
So Kala is not only a dance form. That's why martial arts also is a Kala, because all the footwork, the movement, the body movement, everything comes in that. Each of it adds. Suppose when you play football or cricket, they not teach you how to have the stance, how to bend forward to defend the ball, drive the ball, cut the ball like that. Equally important or even more important is here, because this all got to do with life and death. This martial arts, even more important, every nuance is important.
And then Vadivu, which are the postures or the forms. Vadivu means forms. And then they go into at least 8 specific postures, that of an elephant, of a horse. So how do you position your body? Because these are animals. Fundamentally, all of these, it's so beautiful. We have learned from nature, looking at nature. We look at animals, how they pounce, how they move. And we try to take up similar stances to be able to behave like them, jump like them, and engage in that kind of a combat.
See, because all animals know how to defend themselves and also how to attack. It's innate to them. And each of them have their distinct methods of doing it, distinct postures of doing it. And all of them, while they can also be soft, they can also be ferocious too, very ferocious. So, what we have done, our ancestors, right from Parashurama days, is they observe the animals, how they defend themselves and how they pounce on others. And they took pointers from these aspects of nature. And even a fish knows how to attack. A hen, okay, a rooster, a varaha, like a cat, everyone they took pointers from it and built on it into the system of the art of Kalari. That's the beauty of it. Look at this.
And then how do you fight? So in a Kalari, so when we talk about martial arts, one, it is about your body, how to first control and the movements of your body, make it light. So whether you're holding weapons or fighting barehanded, it is important to be able to keep your body light and be able to balance with foot, be able to jump to gain advantages. So all of that fundamental comes for whichever form of martial art, these kind of activities become very important. Then you need to look at the kind of weapon that you're going to use. Sometimes, yes, you may decide to fight barehanded itself. You have wrestling, kusti, then you have Niyuddha, You also have a form in Uttar Pradesh which is used, and today it is evolved into the style which is called boxing, because this is called mukki. So hitting with your wrist, mushti, mukki, they're all with wrist. And today also, if you go to the Mysore Palace, you will find claws of Shivaji, tiger claws. People used to not just use mukki like this, but they could also use certain claws over here when they do their wrestling. And so therefore, when you then decide to use sticks as your weapon, so koldari, so fighting with sticks, then ankadari, so using metal weapons like daggers and swords, so pointy weapons, so ankadari. Then verum kai prayogam, it's called. That means just only using your hands.
Bare hands. Bare hands. And look at this. Apart from this, what in use what? The 108 marma points which are there in our body, which can disable or kill a person. That's why it's called marma kala. What does the word marma mean? That is not which is seen, which is secret. Marma, okay, that which is gupta, not seen. So this was the point. So they knew in the body where they are, and especially when you do the verum kai prayogam, what do? You have your fingers available to go touch or hurt those points, which is what Bodhidharma had learned, which he took it there. Which is what is it? So they knew these points and then they took it there. And from which this Marma Kala, you get two varieties of treatment in Ayurveda. One is called, in China, of course, the name I'm doing English name, and we'll get back to the Ayurvedic name. One is called acupuncture. Other is called acupressure. That's the anglicized form of saying it. But one is acupuncture. What do we call it in our martial art forms and traditional treatment forms of Ayurveda? We call it Suchi Ayurveda. Because in acupressure, you use a needle, a suchi, a puncture. So it's called Suchi Ayurveda. And acupressure, we call it Marma Sthana Ayurveda. So you know those sthana, those places, which is not seen, is gupt, but you know where it is, so you know how to approach it to either maim a person, hurt a person, immobilize a person, or even treat a person. So it's got both. It's got qualities to immobilize a person. It's also got qualities to treat a person. So that is what the nerve endings were doing. So that is what they are identified this 108. And this was part of the training. So you had to be also a good Marmasthana Ayurveda specialist to be able to excel in coloring.
So you find that when we talk about martial art, it is not just only about fighting, and it is an integrated, and it's not a separate discipline as well. It is an integrated aspect of the art, kala, and also of all these sciences, the science of Ayurveda, the science of keeping yourself fit. So various other aspects also come into play.
Look at the way showing you some of the paintings. This is a great guru named Lakshmanan teaching how to fight. Because we spoke about the different jumpings just a minute back. So you can see that. And there are different types of in the body. So the Marma Prayoga, and to whom will a teacher teach it? That's very important. A teacher will teach this Marmasthana techniques only to a student whom he is convinced will not misuse it ever in his life, abuse it, because it's a really Gupta Gyan and has to be used only in that perspective. So only after somebody reached the mental state was it even taught to them as to what these are. So the grades of levels of teaching. That's the beauty of it.
Here, therefore, this highlights one particular point here. It highlights the aspect that when you are teaching these kind of martial arts, even more important it is to teach good values, dharma, to the practitioner. So it is not sufficient that you go for an arts class and you just learn these techniques and come back home and practice and become an expert. But parallelly, there has to be an avenue where the person who is getting trained is exposed to the ideas, the philosophy of the land, the dharma of the land, the principles of good living, so that they don't misuse this particular art. That is very, very important, and that was fulfilled actually by a composite environment of a gurukula. So people would go. So even when you say akhadas and all, they would go and live there. And so they would go and live there with the guru, who would also impart these value-based training about what is the dharma of the land, what is the ethos of the land, what are the principles by which one should live, when should one use this, when not to. All of this has to go. Only then you become a mature person and capable of being able to put this art to use.
So it goes back, this idea of calligraphy goes back many centuries. You can see, so it was traditional, physical, mental, and an art. So it was both bare hands as well as wielding weapons. It was a scientific method of training. It was Vijnana. While it was a Kala, it was also Vijnana. And it gave rise to all the so-called art forms all over the Southeast Asia, East Asia, and other parts of the world. And we have already seen about how Bodhitama, Bodhidharma, he took it there and he brought forth all these art forms for all of us, the world to see now. So look at the word, when you say the word karate, comes from the word karam, hand. So that's how it has sort of developed.
And there is a beautiful art form in South India which is called Kara Tandavam. So it is a dance and also with karam. So where the hand and hand movements, so karam gets more focus. The strength of the karam is displayed here. And at the same time, it is a tandavam. It is a nritya as well.
Well, all of you know Tandavam of Shiva, isn't it? The Tandava Nritya of Shiva, that is, he's got two types. One is Ugra Tandavam, other is Ananda Tandavam. I'm sure the famous Nataraja bronze icons we see, what you call as the Chola icons, I'm sure all of you are well aware of them. The famous, the circular round ones where Nata Raja, the king of Natanam, Natya is there, Nataraja, and two types, Ugra Tandavam, Ananda Tandavam. But whereas when here you're talking about the Ugra Tandavam, when you say Kara Tandavam, it is because using the hands, Karam, it as your steps are there, balanced steps, use it to fight. So that is how it comes about, the term. Now, this is it's a holistic form for both the mind and the body. That's why if you look at some of the Shaolin films, you see they speak so much about the mind, which was something new to the Western world 50 years ago, because so much about all this comes from here. And it's a combat area, and this is mentioned in the Sangam literature, not only in the north, but in the Tamil Sangam literature too. It goes back by about 5 millennia. Look at the beautiful art form that it will bring about. The training, the grappling, the kicking, the leaping, how they have to. So they have both weapons as well as danda, the stick. Both, they use both to do this. And it's a harmony, mind you. What is important is, a couple of years back, one of the exponents, a lady from Kerala, she was awarded the Padma Shri. So that's how it is. So it's so many people now learning this as an art form it's become, because now it's not used so much in direct one-on-one combat, which was centuries ago. It's become an art form, the beauty of it. A lot of youngsters have got into learning this because it's all a balance of body and mind. That is what it's bringing about a lot of youngsters. And if you talk about this particular Kaleri Paitu, the way we for bow and arrow, all of us speak about Arjuna of the Mahabharata as the best wielder of the arrow. That's why the sports award, today's sporting award by India, independent India, is called the Arjuna Award. Because we say among the archers, the best archer was Arjuna. Of course, there could be other equally good archers too, like Ekalavya, Karna, and so many more people. But for certain reasons, we have eulogized Arjuna and said it's Arjuna Award. Not just for archery, but for sports in general itself. Similarly, for the purpose of Kalaripayattu, the great name equivalent to say Arjuna for archery, for this is called Tacholi Ottanan, who lived in North Kerala about 500 years ago. He was a great exponent of this particular art. Unfortunately, due to some intestine fights, he did not live long. He died by the age of 32. But there's even a temple there, and he is considered one of the great experts of the art. Incidentally, about him and his skills, which are folklore, legends in especially North Kerala. Amar Chitrakatha about 40 years back brought out a nice illustrated story book about him that you can please check out sometime later. It's very well written book, I thought, about him. And there have been films made about Tacholi Otanan 50 years ago. Okay, so there's a great people like that. Who then Tacholi Otanan used it within his wars late, whereas later, look at this great king called Parasai Raja of Kerala. He fought with these skills, these techniques against the British. He rebelled against the British rule. That's why the British banned the Kalari weapons, because they felt, and then it could not be taught open because they felt that it is these people who are instigating freedom struggle movements. So what happened was then teaching this went underground literally. So there were great teachers who taught, who continued the skills of training, because otherwise it will die within a generation. The skills will die within a generation because it has to be, as she had said sometime back, you can have some scriptures, some writings which are there, but which are all taken away back to England because they didn't want to leave them here. So it had to be taught literally hand to mouth or mouth to hand. So these teachers taught these to and kept it alive for us to know that such a great tradition exists in this land. And one of the people who effectively used it against the British hegemony was this particular great Raja of the Malabar region. And look at this. She is a Padma Shri awardee. She is a grand old lady of Kalaripayattu. At the age of 70, she's still training herself and so many more people. So the good point is recognition is coming back for our martial arts in our own way, our own beautiful way. That's the beauty of it. It's just coming back now. I'll just show you one more example here. Look at this is another form of, but look at the emphasis on the footwork for people here. That's what it's something they give preliminary training. I'll show you one more example. It's a beautiful film clip that we have got. We'll try to show you for a moment of, I'm sure all of you would have heard of all of you have heard of, in Australia, all of you have heard of the idea of boomerang. That which you throw comes back to you, isn't it? That which you throw comes back to you. Whereas look at this here. All of you have heard of the idea of boomerang. That which you throw comes back to you, isn't it? That which you throw comes back to you. Whereas look at this here.
We'll just try and get that for you. Just one minute. It's very, very beautiful to see. Just a minute.
Stop there. Leave it. So look at this word. We look at this as a fighting form.
We'll see when we get it. We'll try and we had it. We kept it open just to show you all. Somehow it's got lost here. Yeah. So when this has gone all over the world, and look at the name it's got the Chinese martial arts today. It's called Jujutsu, and this is traceable to the Sanskrit word Yuyutsu, where it means that those who are keen, whoever desire to fight, to engage in a fight, who are eager to fight to settle things and get into a mode of fighting, Yuyutsu. So this is how Jujutsu is practiced today. I mean, this is the form of art, martial art. Many of us know about it. So wishing to fight, Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetra, Samaveta, Yutsva. So people who were eagerly, it was a Kurukshetra, it was a Dharma Kshetra in Kurukshetra, where you found all the people waiting, ready to fight. So a combatant.
So the Chinese term jujutsu or the Eastern term jujutsu clearly has the terminology itself, the roots in our Indian word, which finds mention very clearly in the first sloka of our Bhagavad Gita. So on this, we have made a short film. We'll share it with you on Jujutsu. It's just a 2-minute film.
India and karate, jujutsu, martial arts. India has also been a land that has offered many different kinds of contact sports. The word karate comes from the root word kra, meaning to do, and karam for hands in Sanskrit. Karate is indeed a sport played with limbs, hands, mainly karam. Karate involves using certain spots on the limbs where power can be focused to deliver impact on the opponent. The famous Japanese martial art, the name Jujutsu, has its origins in the Sanskrit word Yuyutsuhu, which means desire, mentality to fight. The word Yuyutsuhu draws its root from the Sanskrit word Yuddha for fight. In the medieval period around 760 CE, there was a great Buddhist monk by the name Bodhidharma who traveled from South India over the seas to China. His objective was to spread Buddhism along with the knowledge of meditation or Dhyan, which became Chan in China, and Zen in Japan, giving rise to Zen Buddhism. Bodhidharma is described as having learned Kalaripayattu, an Indian parent form of martial arts. It is from this and the Yoga Mudra hand positions that Kung Fu and other martial art forms are described as having evolved when Bodhidharma stayed and taught at Shaolin. Tacholi Uttenan from Kerala being the most renowned practitioner of Kalaripayattu in Indian history. Kalari means gymnasium school. Payattu means exercise, fights. Another parent form of Indian contact sports is Kara Tandavam, a martial art form which is a dance of the limb. Kara is hands and Tandavam is the ultimate dance. Thus, Bodhidharma took this knowledge with him to China, and from there it spread to Japan and Southeast Asia and developed into further variants there like karate, jujutsu, etc. From there it spread further world over. Some of these continued with just their hands, while some others included weapons or other implements as time evolved. The home of knowledge, wisdom, and
so you can see from this. So you can see from this. There's a short film for all of you to share with people you want to, about how in a capsule of 2 minutes you try to explain so many components of it for all of us to know. We'll just show you one more bit of it.
Which one? You want to cover Kerala one? That's.
Oh. Just give us one more. We'll show you something. See, in one of the other contact sports, as you call martial arts, is a very famous sport between a bull and the man. It's called Jallikattu nowadays. I'm sure it was the news for all the wrong reasons about 3-4 years back. That's why I want to tell you what it is. Look at the word Jallikattu. Of course, it's a much more anglicized name now, but the original name was Sulli. Sulli means coins, and Kattu means tie. So it was the coins, precious coins, gold coins, silver, all of them were tied to the horn of the bull. So it was important for a person not to hurt the bull, not to kill the bull, as in the Spanish game of matador. But here it was very clearly to get control of the bull by only holding its hump. The beauty of all the Indian bulls is what? The hump. If you look at this, there are various types of bulls in the world. One of them is called Bos indicus. Bos comes from the bovine, for cow, the genre of cows. Okay, there's other called Bos zebu, and then there's a Bos that is the Taurus, which is there in Turkey. It is there in Iraq and Turkey. So what you have in the European cows are all Bos Taurus, where they don't have a hump. Almost all the Indian cows have a pronounced hump. That's why if you see the Nandi in any Shiva temple has a clear hump. That is the speciality of an Indian bull. So you tamed an Indian bull by holding its hump but not hurting it. Okay, that was the beauty of the Jallikattu game, where then once you have tamed the bull, you can price out the prize money, the coins. That was the beauty of it.
So this would need people, youth fundamentally, who were having a good body, a lot of strength, who have trained themselves in wrestling and various other such forms of combat. So when you see some of these sports, you can see that unless people have had this kind of training and exposure, they cannot attempt these kind of sports and other acts as well.
So look at the clear hump of it. Look at the beautiful hump. Look at the size of the bull, the strength of it. This Vrishabha has. It's not an ox or a bull. It's a Vrishabha. Look at the strength, and look at this. This is depicting this Jallikattu from the Harappa Mohenjo-daro times itself. See, this all people here accosting the bull. This one head here, one head here. Here, look at this. People here all accosting the bull, the hump of the bull. Look at these pictures very clearly. Look at this here. This holding it by the horns, literally holding it by the. Mind you, our sport is not to do with matador or what you did in the Roman circus. You killed the bull after the event and had it as a meal. No, for us it was a divine animal of Lord Shiva, where you only tamed it to show your personal virility against a very virile bull, and then we're able to succeed in that process.
It was also an exercise to keep the virility of the animal also.
Yes.
The bull as well.
The variety of paintings we have of different people fighting different martial art forms. And this particular Varma Kala, which was banned. Obviously, the British were mortally scared of what all we could do. And the modern game of Kabaddi, which is so popular now, you have got a Kabaddi league now. All this emanates from the same martial art form. Absolutely emanates from the same martial art form we have. It's become a modern sport now, and happily so, because these are the traditional sport of India. Now, Kabaddi is getting national recognition. Soon it should get even international recognition. That's how it has come up. And not only did they practice these sort of arts on land, they practiced on water too. With their boats, they used to balance between boats, and so that was so boats were used only for fishing or traveling. It was also used for art forms, for martial art forms. That's the beauty of it. So they used, so look at this particular, the way you have Malkam, the beautiful sport of Malkam in Maharashtra. In other parts of India too, you had this where you have to climb the very slippery pole. And look at here, there are coins here, gold coins here tied at the top, just the way they did for the bull. Here also they have, and they put oil, so this became slippery. In spite of it, you have to climb, slipping oil, pouring oil on, you have to climb up to go pick up the coins. The way you have this in Bombay, okay, for Janmashtami, you have this famous festival, and other parts of India too. So look at this. So they kept the body and mind fit through the land to different festivals too. That's the beauty of it that they did. And there are different ways of doing it. And for the children, before they train this, they had this sort of games to train the children to get into this, and the finger nimbleness you got this. So you had a range of sport through which you could do and get people to be nimble in mind, in fingers, in physical body, everything. Now, it was not only here, you had this in Manipur too. We'll show you some example. And we'll show you an example from Karnataka the next 10 minutes before.
See, Manipur is very, very interesting land, okay? It has given rise to it's the home, the origin for two very popular sports of the world today. One is polo and the other is field hockey. And both of them are ball and stick game. Even though polo first you associate it with the horse, it is actually fundamentally a ball and stick game. You are playing that sitting on a horseback. And this ball and stick game, and similarly if you look at hockey again, it is a ball and stick game. So the word for ball and stick game is kangje in Manipuri language. So kangje, a ball and stick, gave rise to two major games. One is Sagol Kangje, which is polo. It also had a local name, Pulu, from which it comes as polo. This is there in our mini book, Manipur. On Manipur, you will see that again on the website under mini books. And field hockey comes from Mukna Kangje. Now, the word Mukna, and that actually gives rise to this field hockey. Their game used to be called Mukna Kangje, from where they modified the rules to come up with the way we play hockey today. And here is where you can see what is this Mukna Kangje, how they are playing it with their stick. See,
similar kind of police. It's a century ago, few centuries ago.
So this is their kind of stick, so similar to the hockey stick. And Mukna Kangje, the word Mukna is a martial art. It is a form of wrestling. And this Mukna Kangje, the rule was very kind of similar to hockey, but slightly variant in that you could carry the ball and you could take it, but only when it is hit by the stick, it becomes a goal. Otherwise, it is not a goal. So you could take the ball and you could handle it in different forms, either with your feet or hand, that is all right. But only if you hit it with the stick, it becomes a goal. On the other hand, for the opponent, they could tackle the person carrying the ball and prevent him from taking the ball near the goal, and they would use wrestling techniques. So here you can see them, the opponents tackling them using wrestling techniques. So that is Mukna.
Look at this, they are holding them by the waistband and literally lifting them up. See so here. In sumo, how you do it now? In sumo wrestling, Japan use the waistband to use this, very similar to that, using the waistband of the person to hold the person. And then you play the rules. So look at this. So we have given a variety of games. The international game polo that's played so much in USA, and all of us, many people wear the polo t-shirt. It comes from our Manipuri game called, the ball was called pulu. This ball was called pulu, from which comes the word polo. Actually, it was a British officer named Shearer who saw this game being played here and took it to West. That's what we explain that in our book, how it happens and how these games are played. Very clearly a game from our proud northeast of Bharat, the land of Manipur. Mani itself means gem. The town, Nagara, the area of the gem. The money. So these two are gems of the land that we have shown you. Now I'll just show you one or two more things. So we have told you this all there in our book to read for all of you, because there's lots to say.
So they also talk about Mukna being going back, and Kangje kind of games going back to Mahabharata times, and that means that goes back to about at least 5,000 odd years ago. So this again, you see that throughout the land, some form or the other of keeping fit.
And all of us will do it from Manipur, will come down south to Karnataka. All of you are well aware that the Vijayadashmi festival in Mysuru Palace is so well known, popular. So in the Mysuru Dasara festival, look at this, a famous festival is the Dasara festival of Mysuru, where all the festivities happen outside the palace for people to see. There's only one particular festival of the traditional wrestling that happens inside the palace courtyard itself, where the Raja, Yuvaraja, and all of them take part in it along with the royal wrestlers. Look at them. This is a black and white photo era of the royal wrestlers. This is inside the palace courtyard. This is inside the palace.
Even today, that event happens, and you can see if you go on a visit to the Mysore Palace, they will show you this courtyard where the wrestling events take place during Dasara.
Look at this. This is the palace. This is happening inside the palace. Wrestling is an event. This part of the Dasara celebration. And look at the name they gave it.
Vajra Mushti. So this is the one. Remember, look at his hands. They hold certain weapons or claws with which again they can fight.
It's actually what he's holding is the antlers, the deer, the antlers horn. That's what they're holding in their hand. See, but you can see that they're holding it in their hand. The strong deer antlers horns. So it's called Vajra Mushti Kala. That's what they're holding in their hand beautifully. So, and where did this come from? Before it came to the Mysore Palace, it was in the Krishnadevaraya kingdom where it was there. So the Krishnadevaraya kingdom had it. So there was a practice there, a great practice. Look at this, both men and ladies too practiced it. Look at the hairstyle bun of the lady. You clearly see it was ladies, not just the men. Even the ladies were experts in it. Look at the where one leg is, where look at the other leg is. She's been lifted up. Look at the beautiful sculpture going back 1,000 years. With the lady with the bun, hairstyle. How it's being done, see. And this is the Dibba. It's called the Mahanavami Dibba. It's now there in Hampi. This is the great Mahanavami Dibba, on which lot of royal events used to happen, including this particular Niyuddha.
Showcasing of all these art forms.
Skills. Of course, they used to have fireworks also here. Niyuddha here for people to watch. The royalty like Krishnadevaraya and his predecessors and people after him to watch from here. So it was called a Mahanavami Dibba. Dibba means platform. On Dashara, the one day before Dashara was Mahanavami for that. So it's been an art form that's been practiced in India from Parshurama times. From Parshurama times, coming all the way down. We have shown you different examples in different parts of it. We have shown you Malcolm, we have shown you this, and the Akhadas that have kept up the tradition for us. So, different forms of this tradition.
So in Bengal, Bangladesh, and all, you have Lati Kela. Bihar, you have fighting again with swords. So they are called different things, but the idea, fundamental idea is good body movements, balance, postures, footwork, fitness, and using weapons such as sticks or certain small weaponry, handheld weaponry or swords, and slight differences in movements or techniques and footwork, and it gets a different name, but underlying you will see a lot of commonality, similarity, and the ethos that you have to keep your body fit in order to be able to also protect your civilization and society at any time. So this is fundamentally, you can see, and interestingly, see here there is a divinity itself. In Maharashtra, they have a form of Shiva who is called Khandoba, and you will have the sword fighting in Bihar. It's called Parikhanda. Khanda means sword. Khadga. You have a work on Khadga Lakshana. So look at so many things that have to come together for a martial art with a sword to really flourish. While on one side you need a lot of knowledge about Ayurveda and all of things about keeping fit, then about the art form, footwork, dance, grace, balance. You also need metallurgy to be able to manufacture very good swords. So you have about the khadga, the sword that is needed for this art form. You will find that in another text called Khadga Lakshana, which has been written on how to manufacture, how to make these kind of very good sword. What is the Lakshana of a good sword? So all of this. So today, if we have to bring back this art form.
So for all this, there is an article written called Niyuddha. The article is available in our blog, and the mini books and films also available in our website for you to go and take it and use it the way you deem fit for these sessions.
And we have to now, as focusing on IKS, start bringing all this knowledge from various disciplines, because now today sport has become a separate discipline itself. So we have to now pick up all the related information from various aspects and then make a holistic knowledge base which teaches the martial art, which teaches about the excellence that is needed in other disciplines as well to help these martial arts flourish, and at the same time how to also impart the necessary values to the people who are getting trained in martial arts, because now they're going to really have raw power in their hands, and raw power can be dangerous unless you know how to control it. So more than teaching martial arts, you can teach martial arts, but equally important it is to teach the soft art of value, spirituality, because without your spiritual practices, your martial art will not be that kala that it is meant to be. It will just be just a sheer form of violence. If it has to be a kala, if it has to be an act with a purpose, with an objective, then you need that spiritual tenor to it. You also need it to be bound by dharma and the values of dharma, which are equally important in imparting this kind of training. So, any questions if you have, we are happy to take at this point.
Thank you, Dr. Hari and Dr. HemaHari. Your knowledge and sessions are so simple and so enchanting. We have been hearing you for so many years. Wonderful. I think we can take a couple of questions. It's already 10:30, but we can take a couple of questions. Is that okay with everybody?
Thank you.
5-7 minutes.
Yes. Thank you. My name is Giridhar. I am from Karnataka.
Yes.
Karnataka.
Karnataka. Yes.
Recently, we heard about the national games on Mallakamba going on in Gujarat. Thanks to all of your efforts, we very happy to see such things happening. And I just want to know, is there any links for the living Kalari schools in Kerala? And overall, how do you see the future of these martial arts in India? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for a very pertinent question. Yes, we are glad that now this now getting part of the national sport, and it's not anymore called only rural sport. Earlier, you had something called rural sports and modern sport. No, it's all getting coming together today, and equal importance is being given for this. And yes, there are very many centers, because when Lord Parshurama started 108 centers. Unfortunately, due to the travails of time, some of the centers have become very small. Now, with the new resurgence over the last in New India, many of these centers are now are finding oxygen to come back and perform once again, which is what one of the shot in arm was recognizing one of the lady practitioners for which she was even awarded the Padma Shri in Kalari, which we showed you. So like that, many more people are getting recognized, and we have to not see Kalari, as you asked a minute back in the question, should not be seen only as a separate art form. It has to be co-joined with Ayurveda. Today, Ayurveda is seeing full Punarjivan happening. As you said about Marmasthana, Ayurveda, everything. No, so the whole thing has to intertwine and come up, because you cannot do Kalari without Ayurveda, or you cannot do Jujutsu without that. So it is all intertwined. So that is what is to come as a holistic perspective, and take it to national. And one area where it can happen is the Indian Army, the National Defense Academy is now looking at opening up and taking more and more of this. So since we have two special speakers from the services this afternoon, we can again bring it up with them. So it has to be multi-pronged attack. Yes, it's happening. There's a windows open, some fresh air is coming, but we need to open lot more windows to get lot more fresh air and a good intertwining of the two, because the traditional art forms of India have enormous value. And as Dr. Hema said, it must not be looked at only as physical combat. It has also got to do the mental upbringing. As I said earlier, the gurus used to teach Marmasthana Kala only when the students were fit enough to learn it. Like that, there are levels and layers to it. That is a bit, and the intertwining is absolutely important between the stula and the sukshma, the physical and the subtle. That is what is important, and this is what we have to get across also. Otherwise, the Western art form is only gross, physical. Stula, the sukshma is not so much there. Whereas we have a good mix of both, a happy, cogent mix of both. That is what we have to look for and bring forth from our Indian perspective, our Eastern perspective, our dharmic perspective. Yes, sir. Any more questions, please?
Good morning, sir. Good morning, madam. I want two questions, madam. First, how Bodhi Dharma was died? First question. How Bodhi Dharma was died? Second one, please explain about the Katti Shamu, one of the martial art in Andhra Pradesh.
Katti Samu, yes, right. Yes, Katti Samu. How Bodhi Dharma died.
See, Bodhi Dharma, obviously, he passed away in China. So his last days were probably, see the multiple stories to it. So whatever we hear is only from a Chinese version, not from our version, not from the Indian version. One of the versions is that he probably wanted to, at the end of his life, return back to his native kingdom. He wanted to come back. Probably people did not want him to leave. They wanted his body. So probably one view is, one story is that, again, it's all folk tale. One is probably they poisoned him so that his body will remain in China, his skills will remain in China with them. That could be one thing. Or probably due to old age, because
he actually went when he was quite old. When he went from here itself, he was quite old.
He was well past the 60s, probably in his early 70s when he went. So he was not a youngster in his 20s, 30s going, because he was a prince, lived here, traveled all over South India, then he went to Nalanda, practiced, and he came back, traveled all over the land. It's only finally at the much later stage of his life that he set sail from Mamallapuram all the way. And he didn't go straight to China. He went from here to Sri Lanka, spent some time in Sri Lanka, then he went to Vietnam, then he went to Southeast China, then he went to interior China. So he did take a few years to travel, and one of his brothers also joined him a couple of years later. So there's a mix, all that we explained in the book, in the mini book called Bodhidharma, which is there for free read. in our website. So, how the end is, obviously you only hear the local stories, which also multiple detailing, but suffice to say that he spent his last days in China, and he is not only, while he was born in the Pallava kingdom, was a Pallava prince, he has become an international figure, a figure who gave rise to a whole series of martial arts for the whole of eastern part of the world, which has also taken the West by storm, because it was not only physical, but it was also mental and spiritual. He mixed, it was intertwined of the two. That's the beauty of it. That is what we need to take the larger lesson over after 1500 years of his time.
Yeah. And coming to Katti Samu and Kara Samu and all, so fundamentally, like I said at one point in time, all the martial arts, the base seems to be very common. It's about footwork, it's about learning the art of giving that bounce to your body, being able to jump. The body movement, the focus on your body, which is why we spent a little time in that Kerala where they taught about Mei Payattu. They call by different names, but that the fundamental thing is learn to control your body, control your limbs, give a sense of lightness to your body. Once you learn that, then it is a matter of handling different kinds of weapons, and these fundamentally are stick, and then those kind of horns or claws and nails or daggers and swords. So the shape of the sword can change. It can be a two-edged, it can be a curved form of sword, so that may change, or the stick, the thickness of the stick, the length of the stick, these can change. But and maybe the rules of the, when it is fought as a game, as a duel, the rules may change here and there, but largely you can club it as either with a stick, which is Karasamu, and then Katti Samu with a sword, or whether you call it a Latikela or a Karasamu or a Silambam. They're all similar thing, which are all grounded in the basic form of martial art, Niyuddha Kala of Bharat, which is also further grounded in the Dharma Yuddha, the idea of Dharma Yuddha, the idea of Dharma, and all of that. So the grounding is common, and it's just the expressions are slightly different. The names are slightly different.
Based on the land, based on the topography, based on the hydrology, based on the climate, you have to create variants. That's the beauty of the land. That's the diversity of land. I said the basis is same, the grounding is same, the variants have to be there. That's the beauty of it. And to appreciate the beauty of the diversity, because it's all topography based, it's all hydrology based, climate based. The variants came about and they naturally grew. They're organic, they grew from their land, from that Prithvi. That's the beauty of it. Each of them is to be equally respected for the beauty they bring in.
See, it also depends on the physical form of the person who is going to be performing that particular art form as well. So different regions, people's physique is slightly different, and certain movements are possible, not possible. So accordingly, they tailor and they come up with a set of movements which become kind of a local art form.
Tradition. She used the one word. See, when you say Tandam dance, what is the beauty of dance? I'm sure you have all seen many dance performances. How do you distinguish a good dancer? There's a word in English, L-I-T-H, light. Somebody who, not light, who can move easily from one place to another. That distinguishes a good quality dancer. Similarly, in any of these martial forms, how good your footwork is to move. In cricket, batsmen, what is important? The footwork in batting. In football, what is important? The footwork to move to the right place. In hockey, everything. So look at the way you move your body, how light you keep yourself body to move quickly, artistically and beautifully. That's what matters. And that all comes not from the physical body alone, but that comes from mind. How you train your mind, tune your mind to be calm. Only then it will come. The best of body cannot produce it sufficiently enough which is in synchronization with the mind. That's the beauty of our dharmic systems.
Thank you,
Any more
Dr. Hari.
questions, please?
We will. Thank you so much for your detailed answers. I'm sure there are more questions, but I will share your email ID at the end of the FDP so that they can interact with you and take their interests forward. We have